WIDR Kalamazoo.
Welcome back to the Western News Review, where we talk about the top stories that we report at the Western Herald every week. My name is Nicole, and I'm joined, as usual, with Kayla Lambert, Elliot Verley, and Daniel Ebo. This week we have a few stories that we're going to talk about. The homecoming royalty was announced a couple weeks ago. There's been a change to Medicaid policy and how that impacts students. There was a Kalamazoo Women's March a couple weekends ago that happened at Bronson Park. Western's cold case program received some funding from the Michigan State Police recently, and we're going to talk about how the effects of Hurricane Lee impact students in Michigan.
Great. Good to have everyone back. I'm excited to be back. How's your week been, everyone?
It's been busy.
Busy?
Yeah.
Post-midterm busy.
Really? I thought this week's supposed to be a bit relaxing since we're, easing back into after midterms and all that.
Yeah, I don't think I got that memo.
No, I didn't either. I didn't receive that email.
Yeah, actually it has been busy for myself too. So I feel you. Yeah. But we're back and back to serve our listeners with some of the stories they need to take note of as far as the Western Herald reporting is concerned. And like Nicole rightly said, we're looking at a host of topics, but let's start off from the WMU homecoming story that was done before fall break. And so we didn't get a chance to discuss it because we were also on a break for that period. Nicole, just quickly run us through that story, who won, and give us a bit of background about, a bit of information about their background.
Yeah, so homecoming court was made up of, it was about 8 or 9 juniors and seniors at WMU. And the winners, homecoming royalty, were senior Madeline Smith and junior Sierra Ward. Madeline is a biology and general psychology double major, and she's an RA in the Valleys. She's a part of Delight Ministries, Alpha Lambda Delta, and Late Honors College. When speaking to her, she seemed to be very passionate about Western and very proud to be a Bronco. She said that her whole family went to Western, so there's a lot of pride there, and she's really excited to be able to represent her RSOs as part of homecoming royalty.
Yay, congratulations to her.
Yeah.
But how did she receive the news though? The news of her victory, it's a great height, right?
Yeah, so at the homecoming football game, at halftime, they bring out everybody on court and they all kind of line up and they announce the 2 winners, and those winners receive a $500 scholarship and class rings that are sponsored by Jostens. And then everybody on the court receives a care package. Then they get to participate in extra homecoming events, such as like the alumni tailgate. And then they also get to represent their Greek chapter or RSO.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Was any of you at the game, the final game? I think it rained that day.
Yeah, it was really rainy and cold.
Because I remember I was going to go, but then it started raining. I thought,
Yeah.
I went to the alumni tailgate. And for to do some social media work there. And there was honestly a pretty good turnout. I mean, I don't know, I can't speak for the game itself, but I think that, alumni definitely showed up, braved the cold, so better than I did, probably.
Awesome. Yeah. And she's been talking about, what inspired her to contest the homecoming royalty. Nicole, can you give us a peek into what she said specifically?
Yeah, so she's been a resident assistant in the Valleys for a few years, and she said that a few of her residents from her first year encouraged her to do it, and they told her that they would make sure she won. So I guess that's kind of what pushed her along with like wanting to represent her RSOs. And
she did them proud.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
Well, congratulations to the homecoming royalty.
Yeah.
The name again is Smith.
Yep, Madeline Smith.
Yeah, Madeline Smith.
And then at the time of publication, Sierra Ward, the other winner of homecoming royalty, had not responded to requests for an interview. But I do have some information from her now that I can share.
Sure. Just before you get into that, so you have more than one royalty? Is that how it works?
There's 2 royalty every year.
Oh, interesting. Okay, give us the story on that.
Yeah, so Sierra Ward is a junior, and she's the president, of the You Look Beautiful Black Woman, RSO. She's a member of the Lee Honors College and a resident manager in the apartments. She's also a recipient of the Kalamazoo Promise, if you know what that is.
It's kind of like a fund for people who are from Kalamazoo who want to pursue higher education. I think that's what I heard about. But if there's more information, definitely let's give that to our listeners.
Yeah, so it's basically, if you go to Kalamazoo Public Schools, they will pay for your tuition to go to any university in Michigan.
Wow.
So yeah.
Is it just for people who are originally from Kalamazoo, or just people who went to Kalamazoo Public Schools?
I don't know the exact requirements.
I think it's the number of years that you attend Kalamazoo Public Schools is the amount of tuition that they cover for you. So if you attend 50% of your academic career at Kalamazoo Public Schools, they'll cover 50% of your tuition, and so on and so forth.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I hope more states can replicate that. I mean, more towns and cities. Yeah. Well, that's interesting to note. So that's where the other person is also coming from. Interesting to know that. Congratulations to both of them. What's their name again?
Madeline Smith and Sierra Ward.
Okay, Sierra as well. Congratulations to you. Who knows? Next year it might be Kayla, Eli, or Nicole. I will be out of school by then. Okay, so let's switch to this was on a lighter note because this event happened before break, so we thought we should give you updates on who won what. But let's come to some other important stories that can potentially impact students. And Eli will give us that story about changes in Medicaid, Medicaid policy. Eli, take us away.
Yeah, so there are 2 new changes to Medicaid health insurance that students need to be made aware of. One of them is that because of the removal of the COVID-19 emergency declaration, Medicaid has returned to a former policy that requires students to reapply for their insurance once a month. And this could impact students because they might not be aware that they need to do this, and they could easily lose their health insurance just because they're not aware of this new policy and they don't know they have to reapply. And the second one is that Bronson Hospital is no longer going to be accepting Meridian Medicaid health insurance, which can impact students because Cindy Hughes Health Center, where a lot of students go for health-related reasons on campus, works with Bronson Hospitals closely for lab results and sending students there for more urgent care. So,
do we know when this takes effect? The changes.
Yeah. So the change to the Meridian Medicaid insurance at Bronson will start on January 1st, 2024, and then I believe I believe that the eligibility where you have to reapply once a month has already started. So. I think if someone could fact check that for me, that would be great. But yeah, so those are definitely things.
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's January 1. I'm just seeing that now, but so I understand from what you're saying that students can be impacted because to the extent that some people may not even know this is happening or this has changed, and they may be relying on the same healthcare policy.
Yeah.
But what do Syndicus advise then? What can students do?
Syndicus's official advice to students is to register for Michigan Bridges. That's MIBRIDGES, which is an online program where that gives you easy access to your health care and allows you to reapply once a month easily, and also sends you reminders via text and email to reapply so that you're not at risk of losing your insurance.
Okay, so it's I really appreciate the Herald for doing this story because like you said, I'm first hearing. I mean, it's not like I'm covered under Medicaid, but I'm just first hearing about this, and I'm sure a lot of students are too. So this is by way of information to you out there. If you subscribe to this form of medical, health policy, then insurance policy, then you want to take steps to renew it. I mean, to change it actually, since it's undergone some changes. There's a link on the story in a story on Western Herald's website, with a link to the website where you can enroll in the MI Bridges program that Elijah spoke about. So do well to check that. But yeah, that's what's happening as far as Medicaid policy is concerned, and students should be concerned. We'll switch attention now to talk about, first of all, a women's march that occurred some time ago, not too long ago, and Kayla has that story because there's a lot to dissect about this. So Kayla, let's start off with tell us more about the march. What was the intent, and what issues were touched on?
Yeah, so on October 15th in Bronson Park, there was a women's march held to advocate for women's rights. The theme of the march was to stand up and stand by. We are not done. The purpose of the march was to provide attention to a multitude of issues, but also to celebrate the accomplishments of legislation in Michigan for women's rights, according to the organizer, Michelle Serlin. And so they touched on issues such as abortion rights, LGBTQ plus issues, violence, disability issues, immigration issues, and a lot more. There were a lot of themes that were touched on in this march.
And what other activities did they just march through the street? What other activities?
So there were a lot of speakers, a march, music performances, and tables for people to walk around and look at. It lasted a couple of hours, and it was really involved. It was super cool to hear all of the speakers and stuff like that. Keynote speakers were the CEO of Ohio Unity Coalition, P.D. Talley, and President and CEO of Planned Parenthood of Michigan, Paula Thornton Greer.
Good point. And what were they saying? I mean, the people you just mentioned, the keynote speakers.
Yeah, so Talley focused on abortion rights in Ohio, which was one of the key points made throughout the march, was that abortion rights are kind of up in legislation, up in the air in Ohio. So Talley, she kind of touched on where abortion rights stand in Ohio. And Thornton Greer spoke on the current state of abortion rights in Michigan, where legislation is and where it can go, and kind of referenced the Reproductive Health Act.
Just off of that, when you think about marches like this, how important is it for, taking to the streets to say that we're marching and, in demand or perhaps in support of women's rights? What could be the implications for the larger society?
I think a big thing is just bringing, especially with any march, with any topic, kind of bringing light to things, even if they're issues that are kind of not necessarily super focused on anymore, is that keeping focus on it, making sure that people's voices are still heard. And so I think that was a big part of, especially considering something that the organizers of the march really stressed on was, yes, there have been steps that have been taken in Michigan for abortion rights and women's rights, but they still want to continue to fight for what can be bettered in the future.
And so it speaks to the fact that there's always a constant, fight for what is right or fight for rights. And so it's not about, like you said, these are issues that perhaps could have been toned down a bit, in the past. People think these are issues that everybody knows about, but once in a while you need to draw attention to, some of the prevalent issues. So some things have been done. I mean, when you look back at the early, 19th century and all that, up to this point, definitely rights for women have been significantly improved upon, but there's still more to do. So I appreciate the point about occasionally bringing attention to some of these issues. And the issues they talk about are issues that are very prevalent in our society today. So they're talking about LGBT issues, they're talking about abortion rights, and these are topical issues now. The U.S. Congress is constantly the Supreme Court is constantly talking about LGBT issues and then, abortion rights and whatnot. Several states have contending issues. So I do appreciate this particular match. And I think more of such should be done. Maybe not just on women's rights alone, but, other issues that are prevalent in society that needs more awareness to be created on. Right. We'll talk about WMU's funding for from the Michigan State Police. Is that it? But before that, let's talk about hurricane and extreme weather conditions. And I'll quickly give you that and come to Nicole and perhaps Eli on their thoughts about weather conditions lately and why people should be concerned. Because this story is written by Ella Reynolds, and it says that effects of Hurricane Lee and extreme weather in southwest Michigan, and it says, as scientists continue to closely monitor Hurricane Lee, the latest in this year's above-average hurricane season, students at WMU may wonder how the storm in Atlantic affects them. And I am interested because, when you talk about hurricane, you're looking at densely populated areas, LA, Florida, and all that, those areas. And that brings me to wanting to find out from all of you, how is Michigan impacted in this? Do you? I've not lived here long enough, so I don't know if Michigan experiences extreme or bad weather conditions like that. Any of you?
Yeah. So obviously we don't get hurricanes in Michigan, but I've lived in Michigan my whole life, and I think personally there have you can see changes even just in the past 20 years that I've been alive. I think snow is a big one. There's been a huge change in when snow happens and how long the snow season is.
Do you hate the cold?
Huh?
Do you hate the cold here?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love the cold. Speak for yourself.
I'm glad to hear it. You chose the right state to live in.
I did. Well, my parents did, but yeah. I had the right call.
I think something else that personally I've noticed in the past couple of years is we've gotten 2 tornadoes in 2 years, which is very unusual for Michigan.
I've witnessed, since I came here, I started to catch you in, I've had alerts from WMU, for instance, about, potential tornadoes and all that. And I haven't really seen it happen, but I understand from what you're saying. So some have actually happened.
Yeah, I think, growing up, there would always be tornado watches. Yeah, tornado warnings and watches, but it didn't really happen. But in, I think, May of 22, there was one up in Gaylord. I'm from Gaylord, so I was very watching that. I have a lot of friends and family in there. And then earlier this year, I think in September, August, there was one in Grand Rapids. I don't think that one was as big compared to the one in Gaylord, but yeah.
So it is happening. And based on what Nicole has been saying, maybe your thoughts, Eli and Kayla, on, Michigan, she said, has not really been a place for hurricanes, but it looks like there are warnings now, and based on some extreme weather conditions, what should we be concerned, going forward, that some of the things that we think were distant from this state, were peculiar to certain states like the South and all that, can happen to us, and what can we do as far as climate change awareness is concerned?
I think that extreme weather is definitely something to be aware of. That is always a possibility, especially as we approach winter and it starts getting colder outside. I remember a lot of extreme weather last year specifically that actually I remember a specific story where a tree fell during a really bad storm last season and crashed through 3 windows in one of the dorm buildings. So so it is something to be aware of. It is something to be maybe concerned about, and it could definitely be chalked up to climate change. It could be chalked up to a lot of different factors, but I think that there's a lot of different, resources that students can get involved with on campus organizations for making WMU more eco-friendly. more aware to how climate change can affect us.
Weather doesn't discriminate. So, and it's easy to say, like, especially I know I have this mentality of like, oh, like a tornado will never happen to me. Like, I'm not going to get swept up and like my house isn't going to get destroyed. But like, there is legitimately no way for anyone to, like, it can be predicted, but it can't, in the long run, it can't be predicted. So just be, like Eli said, aware and have plans in place to know in certain weather conditions and with inclement weather, know what you're supposed to do, because at this point, I think we can all see that, according to this story, that it is getting worse. So yeah,
it is getting worse.
I think my personal opinion is that I don't think there's any real point in living in fear of severe weather. I think the most important thing is to be aware of it, because it's not necessarily something that we can change or impact drastically in the moment. It's just being aware of it and knowing how to take the steps to stay safe.
And talking about what you can do, the professor who was interviewed for this particular story, who sounded this warning, Professor Zhu, mentioned that students can lessen their carbon footprint by such as minimizing their personal car usage, or, and this is where I find interesting, investing in an electric car. Now, at the student level, electric cars are very expensive, right? So I don't know how feasible this is, but what do you think in terms of investing as a student at a student level in electric cars?
I think there's steps you can take before that to reduce your eco footprint. I mean, I know that I do things like, even just small things like recycling or investing in like reusable shopping bags to reduce your plastic waste, things like that. I mean, you don't have to go from 0 to electric car. There's a lot of different steps you can take and a lot of different things they suggest to reduce your eco footprint.
Okay. So Eli recycles. Who else recycles?
I recycle.
Don't tell on yourselves.
I raised my hand, but you guys can't see that. I do recycle.
Okay.
And there's fun things you can do. Like, I know I enjoy thrifting clothes. That's a lot. That's very eco-friendly. And then there's just other things like composting. You can get really creative and have a lot of fun with being eco-friendly. So you
can, yeah. One thing that I do is I reuse cardboard or like scraps of like plastic or string that I would usually throw away, and I make them into cat toys for my cat because she gets so bored in the dorm room and I can't afford to go out and buy things, so I make it out of what I would usually recycle, and then when she's done with it I just recycle it.
That's fun.
Yeah, so there's a lot. I mean, you can get fun with it.
Yay. Okay, so that's just by the way of being aware of extreme weather conditions, especially in Southwest Michigan, and some of the things that my co-hosts here have said that you can do. And at your level, I think that the easiest one they've mentioned will be recycling and thrift shopping.
Yeah, thrift shopping.
Yeah, I can do that, at least the recycling bit. Yeah. So we'll talk finally about the story I mentioned briefly in terms of the WMU's court case program, and Kayla is doing that story for us. Kayla, how was the program? Just give us a rundown of the story and how the program was funded before, because I'm first hearing about this.
Yeah, so the Michigan State Police announced October 13th that it will be helping to fund the Western Michigan University Cold Case Program through student employment with Michigan State Police. So students who are a part of the program can now officially become they have two tracks. They can either become a state police cadet or a student assistant or a student intern. Student assistant and student intern are the same position. Previously, the cold case program was funded by donations, so their hours were limited and their resources were limited by the donations that they received. But now with this funding from Michigan State Police, they can work more hours, and there's professional development opportunities for these students involved in the program.
Okay, so are we talking about getting them actually into the academy, the police force, or?
Yeah, so the student cadet track, they would be on their way to the academy. And then the student assistant track would be more of like they would be shadowing, like an actual requirement for them within this program is to spend hours shadowing or training with civilians in specific roles, and they can train or shadow with them to figure out what they want to do in the future.
Awesome. So I'm just learning that. So students here at Western help with solving cases. Is that what the program is about?
Yeah. So the cold case program began 4 years ago when Ashlyn Kirsten and Michigan State Police started collaborating with cold cases. This means that undergraduate students, they look at documents of cold cases, which are homicides that occurred years ago that have been unsolved or haven't been solved. And so these students, they look at documents and they digitize them and they look at evidence to assist these Michigan State Police detectives with the cold cases. And they've actually helped and assisted to solve 2 different homicide cases.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So do we know how people can get involved? I mean, if I am interested in this aspect of it, I want to solve cases, which I'm pretty much interested in. What do I do? How do I reach out to them?
Yeah, so they have a website. I don't know what the actual link is, but I know if you Google search WMU Cold Case Program, it'll come up, and they have an application on their page. It's a pretty difficult program to get into just because it's so selective. And now that you have to be now that the Michigan State Police are involved in hiring these students, there is if you want to be a part of the student cadet track or the student assistant track, you do have to go through an interview process with Michigan State Police and all that stuff. But if you have a knack for investigation and it's something you want to go into, they definitely encourage you to learn more about it through their website. And the website is through the Western Michigan University website as well.
Okay, sounds good. So if you're interested, like Kayla said, do well to reach out. At least they have funding, and so it means you might be getting more working hours. And that is if you make it through the application process. But these are the stories that we have for you today. There's certainly more coming next week. But before we go, what are your plans for the weekend?
It's Halloween weekend, so we're all celebrating.
Are you putting on a costume or anything?
Yeah.
I actually don't have a costume.
That's
because
so sad.
I know. I've been so busy with work that I didn't make plans for Halloween.
You can be Eli.
I'll be Eli.
Yeah.
I'll be Kayla.
Oh my god.
Oh my
Yeah.
god. Aww. We do have the same glasses on.
We do.
So
Try that. I'd like to see the Eli Kayla look.
Yeah.
What are you for Halloween though?
I'm being Elizabeth Bennet from Pride and Prejudice.
I read that book. Is she the sarcastic one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I read it. It's been a while since I read it, so I loved it. And you, Nicole?
So my editor, Corey Osterman, is very upset that I'm not wearing a costume to her party this weekend. So I'm going to show up dressed as her.
Oh.
So there's my costume.
And this will air after the party, so this
Yes.
will not be a spoiler.
Okay. Awesome. I like to see all your looks. I'm not dressing up for anything, but I'll definitely be monitoring.
we encourage students to stay safe and drink water and take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This Halloween
Have
weekend,
fun,
but be safe.
Have fun and be safe.
Be safe for real. Important caution over there. It's gonna be crazy.
Maybe a
So
little.
yeah, don't do anything crazy and be safe. Once again, we thank you for always choosing us. This is the Western News Review, where we bring you stories that made the news at the Western Herald. We've run you through today WMU homecoming royalties, the 2 ladies that won. We've also brought you stories about changes to Medicaid policy, which you should take very good note of in case you subscribe to that insurance policy. And there's a story about Women's March, which spoke about women's rights and all the issues that confront women, abortion rights, LGBT issues. And then we also spoke about extreme weather conditions in Michigan and why you should be mindful. It's definitely not fearful, just mindful and being aware. And finally, we ended on the note of the WMU Cold Case program, which has received some funding from the Michigan State Police. Until same time next week. Before we go, any shout outs to anyone?
I just love anyone who listens. So thank you.
Shout out to Corey for ragging on Nicole for not wearing a costume.
Just shout out to Corey, period. We love you, Corey.
We love Corey.
Yeah.
We love you, Mads.
We love you, Corey. All
Yeah,
right.
shout out to
Dream
Matt
team.
for making our print editions.
Yeah.
For real.
Dream team.
Yeah, and shout out to everyone at the Western Herald who puts together the stories that we bring to you. I can't mention all their names, but all these stories have been written by different people, including some of the ones seated here today. So if you do not write, we have nothing to discuss on the show. So shout out to you and thank you for the amazing work that you're doing over there. Oh, I thought you wanted to say something. Okay, so and to Ryan Misiak at the Western Herald as Herald executive producer of this show, good job and kudos to you for your technical support for this program. Until same time next week, this has been the Western News Review. My name is Daniel Ebo. Today I was joined by Nicole Morehouse and Eli Veli, as well as Kayla Lambert from the Western Herald. Bye-bye.